Any sense of trying to kind of recalibrate that
Well,
the
I think
moral
it's
weight of
interesting
that
in
character?
hindsight. Obviously I see it better now than I did then. But 1980 was a turning point for the whole world. It seems like between Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, there was an embrace of what they called neoliberal economics, or the new what they call free market economics. The University of Chicago school, that was touted as the solution to the world problem, and it wasn't. It created an era of excess. And when the movie came out, which is '87, Greed is Good, was seen by me at least as an anti-hero. Gecko was the anti-hero. It's ironic that he was embraced as a hero. It shows you there was a deterioration in values of the society at that time. That everyone was more or less interested in materialism. That was what mattered. Gecko was a hero to those people. Okay? That was not as you know, the intention of the movie. Hero was Charlie Sheen. I said so loud and clear, but for some reason, money was king. Actually, money became God. And if you look closely at that society, it changed. Business shows are on the air 24 hours, cable shows. Businessmen were featured on magazine covers. America had 4 or 5 billionaires at that time, maybe 6. By Business Week had listed about 900 American billionaires, world billionaires in 2008. 900 billionaires. That's enormous. That changed between '87 and that's 20 years later. What a world! I'm telling you, that's hyper inflation of value. On the other hand, why? It's off the backs of labor, because the head of the AFL-CIO told me a few weeks ago in Washington, the union wage rates flattened, their wage scales flattened out in 1973. But American productivity climbed up to here. So the differential was made up by, guess what? Who took the money? CEOs that made 500 times as much as their workers, which is a ridiculous ratio in any healthy society, by banks, by stockholders, and by government taking taxes. But that's a huge differential. That became, in 1973, they stopped making real money.
Were you looking at this as a bit of a gangster film in a way? It reminds me of the way that the old gangsters talk about the new gangsters.
Gangsterism is on a big scale, though. This is way beyond Scarface. These banks. The irony is these banks are doing it legally. You see, Gecko was illegal for insider trading, which was nothing compared to what's really going on, which is the rape of the system. The banks have been cut loose by the Glass-Steagall Act. They can take money from the government. The Federal Reserve Board gives them money.
But in terms of the movie,
Okay,
like the drama and the way you were kind of playing it, were you conscious of that at all, thinking about?
Well, I knew this as a background, but this is a movie about these people, so you stick to drama. You deal with people. You're asking me documentary questions, and I'm answering you. And I'm told by my.
No, I'm asking you a dramatic. I'm saying, are you influenced by sort of The Godfather or something like that? When these guys say, it's not the way it used to be, and it reminded me a lot of of gangster movies. The way that.
Well, that's what somebody quoted Francis Coppola said to them that Godfather and Wall Street were similar, in that the anti-heroes became heroes. The way to behave was mafia-like, and that's true. It probably influenced behavior. I think Wall Street, in a weird way, influenced the behavior of Wall Street people. Yes, Ann?
You got a lot into this movie. How difficult was it to balance the elements of drama with all of the information and all of the politics that you did want to get in there?
Very hard indeed. It's not easy to do that, because the more you know, the more you want to tell, and I don't want to overtell. So, I think we found the balance. We had a whole bunch of scenes about the, not too many, but a few scenes about the AIG people. That's very complicated, that insurance business. And there's a line in the movie where James Brolin says, or Gecko says to Brolin about, it's easy selling crack to kids in a schoolyard, meaning insurance swaps. It was easy. It's very easy to sell that. And it became like crack, heroin. That's what happened. The banks got addicted to the concept of big profit. And they were selling these bundled securities that were subprimes and cheap student loans. They were selling anything they could. They would have sold. It's like a casino. They bundled together everything, and they sold it to the most gullible buyers that they could find. But the banks were counterpartying each other, and they were all trading with each other. And AIG was endorsing the deal. That was the insurance company. So that was, once you believe it, once everybody starts to trade at that level, it's all based on trust. And all of a sudden, you pull the trust. That's what happened in Europe last week. It's a very dicey thing, because every bank is overloaded. Every bank has got more out there than they have. That's why you have a cushion against it. But let's say you only have a 20% cushion, you're still dependent on trust. So there has to be a public trust, public goodwill, that not everybody's going to cash out of the bank at the same time. That's why we created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which of course failed to monitor the banks. Every regulatory agency failed in this deal, including the ratings agencies. So it wasn't a perfect storm, it was a systematic breakdown. A perfect storm indicates a real storm of nature. This was created by an artificial system. It really, it's an awful, and Gecko says, systematic like cancer. And it's bound to happen again. It's not 2008, it's also the internet bubble collapse. It's 1982 collapse in real estate prices in California, and all over the nation, by the way. It's the 1929 depression, it's the 1907 panic, it's the 1893 depression, the 1873 depression. Some people would even argue that we went into World War I because the banks were too big to fail. Morgan had loaned so much money to the British and the French, and America had to pull Morgan out.
Oliver, can I ask